Here courtside of the Duckworth Center on this week's Tips on Technique, we're going to talk about one of the great innovations in the game of basketball over the last couple of decades, the three-point shot. The three-point shot actually started in 1962 in the old ABA. It was a professional league that went into competition with the NBA. There's still some teams in the NBA today that are leftovers of the old ABA. The Indiana Pacers, the Houston Rockets, those are examples of teams that were absorbed by the NBA. But they put the three-point shot in to try to attract a little bit more customer attention. They wanted to put more bums in seats so people would come and watch their game. They put in this innovation. Today, it's as common as the layup. Let's talk about the three-point shot with one of our top three-point shooters, one of the top three-point shooters in the country, fifth-year forward Steve Newton.
Hi.
Well, Steve, let's talk about that three-point shot. You love to shoot it. What are some things you're looking for in order to deliver the three-pointer?
Well, Coach, probably the two biggest things are making sure your feet are set and making sure you're open. I would say that's probably the most important things.
Those sound like such simple things, but you'll watch so many times, I think, that people think they're three-point shooters, but they shoot shots that are really heavily contested. The defender is all over them, and they're a little off the balance. So what you're saying, again, would be what?
Yeah, make sure your feet are set and make sure you're open.
Well, we find a lot of different plays where that is actually going to happen. Let's look at a couple of drills right now with Mate Maradi and Kevin Chief helping us that are good practice drills for that three-pointer. Let's first of all set up just straight machine gun shooting and have a look at it. This is a good drill with two balls. We have a rebounder, Kevin Chief rebounding. We have a passer, Mate Maradi, and we're going to give Steve as many three-pointers that he would probably get in 5 games. Let's go. Go ahead. Watch how the ball comes from the rebounder, Kevin, to the passer, Mate, and Steve is working on shooting the three-pointer. All right, let's stop right there after that one. Steve catch the ball, and we'll have another look at where he's shooting the ball from. Notice here, we're just behind it, but the odd time you get into shooting from that spot here. We call this the gray area. We do not want to shoot the ball with our feet straddling the three-point line or even just inside the three-point line. You might as well get a shooter like Steve to step back, make sure he's always behind the three-point line, and shoot it from there. Let's go with a couple more. Again, look for those points that Steve talked about. Good balance, and the fact that there is no defense in this drill, he obviously is open. There's a couple he can hit. All right, right from there. Now, off penetration, this will also occur, the three-pointer. Let's let Mate penetrate, and we're going to actually use Kevin as a coach position here to give that second ball. All right, Mate Maradi is going to beat his man, dribble into the thing. Steve fills the vacuum in behind and gets the three-pointer from there. Let's have another look at that. Set it up again. This is an excellent way to get a three-point shot, especially as the last-second play. Mate against the defender beats his man, and it's as if a vacuum occurs. Steve fills in behind him, and Mate, if he's not able to get the layup, pitches it back. Let's have another look at that. A great opportunity to get a three-point shot. Penetration into the lane, fill the vacuum in behind, and hit the three-pointer. That's excellent. Another place the three-pointer comes from is the skip pass. So again, let's look at some penetration. I'll get involved with this one here as the second passer. Mate's going to penetrate, pitch the ball to Kevin, and we're going to go with a skip pass. Now, what is a skip pass? Let's have another look at that again slower. It's a pass that goes from one side of the court to the other. Originally, coaches didn't want this pass thrown, but now it can be thrown easily from one side to the other, and Steve, sitting behind the three-point line, can go with it. There's the penetration in the lane, skip pass, and we hit Steve on the other side for a three-pointer. Great shot. Now, those are just a couple of examples of where the three-pointer is shot. It's an exciting part of the game, but it's a kind of skill that if you use it too much, or you shoot the off-balance shot, or you shoot the shot when you're heavily defended, it may become a very low percentage shot. Right now, it's an integral part of the game because it certainly keeps teams from packing the inside with their big people. Now the defense have to come out and play people on the perimeter. It opens up the inside, and it becomes basketball becomes played the way it should be. Today, courtside at the Duckworth Center on Tips on Technique, let's look at one of the most common dribble errors in the game. Working with us is Sherwin Vasala and Tom Wedlake. When you look at two players, one on defense, Tom in black and Sherwin in red, you see this type of move, a crossover, a lot. Let's have a look at a crossover move, Sherwin. And lots of times that's what happens. When the lane is blocked by the defensive player, Tom, Sherwin attempts to use a crossover dribble. Let's look at it again. But he's in so tight. Take it right in close here. He's in so tight that, in fact, the defensive player really doesn't do anything with good defense. The ball, as it changes from right hand to left and we try to go to our left, it hits feet, knees, hands. There's a whole body, a collection of body parts in there that create the turnover. And this is one of the most common turnovers in the game when someone is dribbling the ball. Let's try to remedy that error. Now, the simple rule will be that if you're using a crossover and you're outside the defensive arm's reach, let's have a look, take it in here. Now, you can see Tom has blocked the lane, but we're outside his defensive arm's reach. We can use that crossover move and beat him. Let's have a quicker look at that now. Sherwin approaches the defense, the lane is blocked, and he crosses over. But if he finds himself inside defensive arm's reach, now what he's going to do is go behind his back. He's in tight and he uses that move. Let's have another look at that again. The technique is exactly the same. He pushes the ball from his right hand to his left, and let's stop and look at that move going behind his back as he stops right here. Notice he pushes the ball forward. So many people, when they go behind their back, they push the ball from side to side and they don't gain any territory. Sherwin comes in and he pushes the ball forward, going from his right to his left. It's not a hot dog move. It's not a situation of where he's trying to wow the defensive player, Tom, with his ball handling. He is actually reading the defense. And this is the key term in most offensive situations, that you react to what the defense gives you. Let's look at it again. The lane is blocked. We're outside defensive arm's reach. At that time we were in tight. We went to the behind the back. Let's do it with outside defensive arm's reach, starting again, and we cross over and beat the defender. Now we find ourselves inside defensive arm's reach. Again, we read the defense and we go behind our back. This seems very simple, but the concept of reading the defense is something that a young player must be exposed to very early in his game. Basketball is very different than sports like football, where they actually huddle and talk it over and decide what they're going to do. In basketball, you do have to make similar decisions, but you have that split-second moment of reacting to what the defensive player gives you, and you have to use it. Here in this situation of creating a drill like this, where we actually have the defensive player, Tom, first of all, work to block the lane. We find the dribbler inside defensive arm's reach. He goes behind his back. He has lots of room second time. He goes to the crossover. Both of those are good dribble drills, good ways to reduce turnovers, and good ways to learn to read the defense. Here at courtside of the Duckworth Center, this week on Tips on Technique, we're going to look at how to screen away from the ball. Now, a screen is similar to a football block, but it's not as violent, and there's ways it has to be set. Let's look at the screen away from the ball with our players. On offense is Mate Maradi, Suk Singh, and Luke Buller in black. And on defense, we have Sherwin Vassallo and Mark Carrera in red. Well, let's start with the ball at the point spot here in Suk's hands, and he's going to enter the ball to the opposite wing to Mate over here, and now execute what is called a screen away from the ball. He's going to help his teammate Luke get open on the other side to try to get a good scoring opportunity in the middle of the lane. So let's start with that pass, and now we're executing a screen away from the ball. Let's stop there now. The first point is that we want the offensive player here, the screener, to screen with his back to the ball. So let's walk that through again and watch how Suk uses a change of direction move to get himself in a position with his back to the ball, right there. Why his back to the ball? Because if he were to screen in this position here, the cutter Luke would now go back to exactly the same spot and we would have gained nothing. Now that he screens with his back to the ball, the cutter Luke is now into the lane and we've gained territory. The whole idea of any kind of offense is to get the ball closer to the basket to improve your shooting opportunities. So that's the first point. Now, secondly, notice how he has a good balanced stance. He in fact has come to a jump stop. Let's do that again. Watch now as we set back in line with the ball, a good jump stop, good balanced stance, anticipating contact. The rules say he must be stationary. If he's moving, it will be a foul on the offensive team. So we have this good balanced stance. And his hand position as in a fist to fist, like this. not to elbow anybody, but to increase the width of his body, making it more difficult for the defensive player to get around. And he tries to lock in the leg of the defensive player. When you're on defense and your legs are locked in, you're pretty well useless. So the screener here gets nice and tight and locks in the leg of the defensive player. So that's the job of the screener. Now the person receiving the screen, Luke here, his job is to set the screen up. And that means to take the one step below the screen. And so he'll go below the screen here, and now comes the first read. If we have potential for a backdoor cut, if we have this player looking directly at the screen, there's a possibility of a cut there, and easy basket. All right, let's try that again. Suk comes through. The defender, Mark, here plays the screener only. He does not look at his man, gets wrapped up in it. A good back cut for the easy layup. All right, but this time the good defender sees both ball and man, and we come over the top. Now we stop right here in this spot here. Let's come back here and stop right here for the second set of reads. The cutter Luke coming off the screen, he comes right here in a hip-to-hip spot. Step back a bit, Sherwin, here. This is so very important where we are in this action from hip to hip, teammate to teammate. If we come wide, it allows the defensive player to go over the top and stay with him. But if we come off hip to hip, let's look at it again, we now really almost create a double screen action, and we have him out of the way. All right, let's come back here now. Set it up hip to hip again for the second set of reads. All right, take him below the screen and come and stop there. Now, the defensive player, Mark, here has choices. If he follows, Luke will curl to the basket, and he has an easy layup. If he goes underneath the screen, and Sherwin will step back and let Mark go underneath, Luke will flare out and have a possibility of a shot. All right, so those are the two reads based on what the defensive player does. Let's look at them again. This time, Mark go over the top. And he gets hung up, and we get the easy layup. All right, this time Mark is going to go underneath the screen. Try to avoid the screen by going underneath. All right, here we go. And there's the screen. He goes underneath. Luke will flare, and he has a chance to shoot the ball. All right, now, the screener, Suk in this case, will do exactly the opposite. If Luke curls to the basket, then he will flare out here. If Luke flares, then Suk goes hard to the basket. Again, creating good spacing. Let's look at it. Over the top and step back, and Mate has two options. Run it again. Mark is going over the top. That's good. This time, give him a look over the top. Pass is entered. Screen over the top, and we have two options there. We have the one curling to the basket. We have a shooter out here. This time, let's give it to the shooter. All right. Screen is there. Coming. Set. And we step back, and we get Suk there for a nice shot. All right. Now, Mark is going to go underneath this time. And we get the opposite action. Luke sees that, he reads it, and he will flare, and Suk will go hard to the basket. And there we are. Again, same options again. This time, let's give it to the other cutter. And we get it in there. Very good, very good. All right, run that a couple of times behind me. Keep it going. This is good action where you see this in a game. Maybe many of you don't realize the number of defensive reads that are occurring. The offensive player is always looking to see where his man is. Is he following me? Is he going underneath the screen? And reactions are based on those decisions. It's the great element of basketball, this decision-making process. It separates us from a lot of the other sports because it happens instantaneously. So next time at the game, when you see the screen away, you'll know all of those things are going on. On this week's Tips on Technique here courtside of the Duckworth Center, we're going to follow up from our last show where we looked at how to screen away from the ball. Today we're going to look at how to defend the screen away from the ball. Working with us this time on offense is Sherwin Vasallo, Mate Murati, and Mark Carrera in red. And on defense, Suk Singh and Luke Buller in black. Now, if you recall our last show, we had entered the ball to one wing and tried to screen away from the ball. So let's have a look at the offensive action here. Mate goes across and screens for his teammate Mark, and Mark makes the good cut to the basket. All right, a very common offensive play. Let's look at how to defend that and we're going to look at the different elements. There are a number of different ways. We're going to look at one of those techniques called sliding under. So let's start again and look at some of the different techniques. Let's stop right there. The first point that Suk definitely demonstrates is that he's talking and telling his teammate that the screen is coming. This talk defensively is extremely important. It's a common language, and we like to use the word screen, and we like to tell you which side it's coming on. So let's look at that again. Defensive communication. Ball is entered to the wing. We have a screen away, and we have the screen being told. Good. Now, we're going to slide under the screen. Let's get the screen set up here on offense. All right, it's a good screen, locking in the legs, right? Good balanced stance. We don't want to switch this because this will create mismatches. We want to slide under. And why do we slide under? If you watched last week's show, if the defensive player goes under, the worst that's going to happen is a flare. That means the ball will be passed here, and we're giving up a 17, 18, 19-foot shot. All right? So let's look at how we go underneath and how we control the other person going to the basket. So here, now the defensive players in black, Suk, will actually grab his teammate Mark and pull him under the screen. And as the cutter comes off, we stay and deny both positions. Let's look at that again. Sliding under the screen. And you'll see where he goes in front of the cutter. The defender goes there. We push through. That's good. Now let's go back and look at this slide under again. Right in this spot here. The rules say nothing about grabbing your teammate and actually pulling them through. You can actually grab your teammate and push him through like that. There's nothing wrong with that. And that will really speed his delivery. That'll get him across that lane really quickly and get him in position to stay with his man. Let's run it again. Good talk and slide under the screen.
Screen coming loose, left.
And we push him through and we're set. And we have everything covered. That's a real good technique. Now, let's look at another technique. If this doesn't work and this man hits the shot out here, we have to switch. So we'll go into a switch and deny. This is equals all perimeter people here. Wings and points, no problem switching. But not just switching, but switching and denying the cutters. Let's look at that now. Ball is entered. Here it comes. And we jump up and deny everything. Good. Let's come off it really hard as an offensive team this time and have a look at it. We'll break down that technique. Good. Get underneath that. Get underneath that. Let's go back. Now, that was a good move offensively, a little late defensively in terms of a denial. What do we mean by switch and deny? Let's walk it through. All right, stop right there. Now, we want the two defensive players to tag hands. Why? So that there's nobody slipping the screen, right? Stepping through the middle here, anticipating a switch just like that. So a little tag of the hands, and now we're into switch and deny. That means we change checks. Suk jumps up and denies the cutter, and Luke goes underneath and denies the screener. Let's have a look at it again. A great technique because neither the screener or the cutter will be open. And they're both up and deny it hard. Now that's a really good technique. The only liability is that we've obviously given up the different responsibilities we have. We may create a mismatch, but at our level with a 30-second shot clock, many teams don't have enough time to be able to exploit it. So let's go with some action now. Just play out of that and go to slide under or switch and deny. Good, good, good. Excellent communication. All right, run it back to the top. Run it back to the top. Here we go again. This time, let's switch and deny. Good, 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 good. Nice talk. Well played. Those are good examples. Just keep it going a couple more times, guys. Those are good examples of how a defensive team works together. When you're defending a good offensive team, it can't be one-on-one. Everybody's got to work together. That concept of team defense is extremely important, and it's very helpful in dealing with the screen away from the ball. This week on Tips on Technique here courtside of the Duckworth Center, we're going to talk about movement without the basketball, specifically how the ball can be entered from a guard position to a forward position. And you oftentimes see this as a real problem. A lot of offenses need this pass to get their offense in gear. Defenses deny the pass, and it really takes a team right out of their offense. Working with me on offense today is Luke Buller and Mate Marotti in black, and on defense, Sherwin Vasallo and Mark Carrera in red. Now let's look at the way many players try to get open to receive the pass in the wing spot by just busting in and out. And Mark denies the pass, and he back cuts, and look at it here. Do it again, and do it again. And you see this kind of movement all the time. And Luke standing out here says, I can't pass the ball to my teammate because he's being denied all the time. And that is really one of those ways that the defense finds very easy to stop the offense completely. The keys in movement without the ball, there are two of them. One, and the most important, is to change direction. This in and out is not changing direction. All you're doing is dancing back and forth. The other is to change the pace, and that simply means to go from a walking position to a hard move, crisply going for the basketball. Let's look at a move called a pop, which does a much better job of getting Mate open in this wing spot. We're going to ask him to move up the lane to the ball, and Mark will continue to play defense. And on this position here, here's a real important, he uses his left leg here to get and seal the defensive player. He uses his forearm here to get against the body of the defensive player, and he pops out to receive. Now let's look at that again. Instead of going in and out, now he goes up the lane and he pops and receives the ball. Now he has an option to be able to go one-on-one, pass the ball, shoot it, whatever he needs to do in that wing spot. Let's get a little bit better defense this time. Really play some tough defense on a Mark, and let's see him go up the lane and move to the outside. Now the key is that he's able, again, up the lane, and we want him not only to change direction here and make that 90-degree cut with his right hand as a target hand, but we also want him to change the pace. Walk and move quickly to that spot. Let's have another look at it. And bust out and catch the ball. Now that's a much more effective way. Let's look at it one more time. And let's stop in here and look. Let's really try to deny this position hard and really prevent the ball from coming in. Up the lane, stop right there. Now this is where this leg should be nice and high. So now we have the legs of the defensive player completely locked in. We don't push off, but we use this arm. We signal with the target hand that we want the ball passed away from the defense, and we pop out to catch it. And we're ready to go. All right, let's go this one live, and let's have a good look at it again in full motion. And pop to get it. And we go from that spot, and we drive in, and we score. No, almost. Let's go again. All right, one more, live. Up the lane, and pop out, and catch and score. Good. And we drive into the lane. Excellent. Now that's one of the ways that you need to move without the basketball. Movement without the basketball is one of the most important fundamentals of the game, and one that is not taught very effectively. Many of the great college players that go on to play pro, the reason they're not effective at the pro level is because they don't know how to move without the basketball. When they're the top player on their team, they've always got the basketball. But now they go to a team where there's a lot of great players, and they have to learn to move without the basketball. They've never been taught that skill, and they're not effective at the next level. So if you're working at one level where you always have the ball as a great player, and you go to the next level, make sure that you add this to your repertoire, the ability to move without the basketball. Here again on Tips on Technique, courtside of the Duckworth Center, we're going to continue our look at movement without the basketball. The actual term movement without the basketball is often called cutting. And that means a player cutting to get open. Again, the two principles we talked about on the last show, changing the pace and changing the direction. Working with me again this time on offense, Luke Buller and Mate Marotti in black, and on defense in red, Sherwin Vasallo and Mark Carrera. Now, once we had established the ball into a wing spot, we looked here and showed a simple pop move where we got Mate open in the wing, using his body, catch and square. Now, this is easy for him to work in a one-on-one situation. He has the basketball. But a good offense needs players to move without the basketball. And Luke here on offense has given up the ball, and we want him to move. A fundamental of most offenses, specifically the motion game, is that when you pass the ball, you must move. One of those options would be to cut to the basket. Now, there are two kinds of cuts in the game. One is simply an inside cut. And let's have a look at a good inside cut as Luke takes his man away, and comes back to the ball. Let's run that again. Again, he's going to use the fundamentals, as Mate is using in the wing, of changing direction and changing the pace. And we get inside for the easy basket. This is an inside cut. Now, if defense does not allow that, we oftentimes are forced to take the backdoor cut. So now I'm going to ask Sherwin to jump to the ball, and Luke does not have that, and he's going to have to go backdoor. Let's look at the difference in this. Now that's a tough pass. That time it got there, but let's set it up again. Give the ball to Mate in the wing. Mark plays defense. Give the ball to Mate in the wing spot. All right, now come down in here, Luke. Now look at the difference in this cut, why it's not that good a cut, because the ball must pass over two defenders. Mark in red here defending the ball there. It must go over top of Sherwin here and get to Luke here. It's not that good a cut. The other cut, where we get the inside cut, now the ball is just going over top of one defender. We get great position inside and we score. So in all movement without the basketball, the #1 objective is to get the inside cut. Let's have a look at it again. Watch for the principles of where we change the direction and we change the pace. Very nice. A lot of times this was called the old give and go, but in fact it can work in the wing spot too. Mate, start out in that wing there. Let's take you down to it and come over top of Mark. There and over the top. Another example of an inside cut. So now we have good fundamentals being taught about how we move without the basketball. So let's go live now, where we can only score off a cut. Here we go. A good little drill here, 2-on-2 basketball, and we haven't got it. We'll go back to the top, and we'll run it over the top. Very nice. Very nice. Notice that, you guys can keep playing this as we finish up. Notice that every time the person passes the ball, they're forced to make a cut. They could also screen, but one of the most important situations is to look to set up the cut. The keys being, again, to move without the basketball, change the direction, change the pace, and always look for the inside cut. On this week's edition of Tips on Technique here courtside at the Duckworth Center, we're going to look at one of the oldest plays in basketball, the screen on the ball. It was a very popular part of the game in the early part of this century, but disappeared in the 1960s and 70s because a lot of fouls are created when you screen on the ball. But when they put in the three-point line, it popped back into the game, and we saw some of the great pro teams, especially the Detroit Pistons with Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas, really rejuvenate this play that you see very commonly used in today's game. Working with us today on offense in black is Sherwin Vassallo, Mark Carrera, and Murray Davidson, and on defense in red, Luke Buller and Suk Singh. Now let's take a look at this screen on the ball. In most cases, it's run with a post player, here Murray in black, setting a screen for a perimeter player, Mark, in his teammate also in black. So we'll get a ball entered to the wing and just set up the seam. This is a screen on the ball. Right, let's hold it right there. What we have is a big player trying to block the progress of a smaller defensive player to get his teammate, Mark here, open for a shot or a drive to the basket. Now, in many cases with these type of screen situations, the defense would automatically react by switching. But that would not be a good move here, because what you're going to do is, let's look at a switch out of here. Mark comes off, we make a switch, and now we have a tremendous mismatch inside. We have a perimeter player guarding a post player, and on the perimeter we have a post player guarding a perimeter player out here. So these mismatches are not very good. So this is why this play is very, very effective. It not only gets people open to shoot or drive, it really forces the defense to make some tough decisions. Let's look at how it's executed correctly offensively. So again, here is our screen, and we hold right there. Let's get it set again and hold that position. Point number one. The offensive screener here comes in and straddles the leg of the defensive player. Good balanced stance, knees are bent, and we're in this fist-to-fist action here. Real solid base, anticipating some contact. And the screener can go right up to the defensive player's body, not pushing or banging, but really right up to the body, trying to lock in the leg of the defensive player here. And once that leg is locked in, we're in a situation of where it really is difficult for the defensive player to move. So that's the object of the screen, the player that sets the screen on the ball. Now, Mark, who receives the screen, as it's coming to him, sets it up with a jab to the baseline. And this not only gives a good angle, it occupies Suk on defense from really starting to move, to get under or over that screen. So again, let's walk it through again. Get that good screen on the ball. And we lock in the leg. We jab, and we come off of that screen hard. Very nice. Now, one of the reasons it disappeared from the game was the fact that a lot of fouls are called here. The ball is involved with this screen process. All the referees are watching. Now, this time we're going to ask Mark to come and dribble before the screen is set, and you'll see the most common foul out of here where they call the post player for blocking. Let's have a look at the way not to do it. And we go there, right. And what has happened in that situation, the defensive player, Suk, is moving because the dribbler started too quickly, and the screener contacts the moving player. They'll call that a block. So the key here is the person receiving the screen here, Mark, must wait until the screen is set. Let's have another look at it. And we're coming off. Good. Now, this time, let's look at what happens to the different reads out of it. That's the fundamentals of setting it up. Again, let's put the ball in this spot. All right, we have the jab to the baseline. The screen is set. We'll hold right there. Now, with this jab, if it's not really dealt with and Suk pays attention to the screen, Mark may have a chance to drive baseline all the way. That's always still there. He doesn't have to use the screen, and if he feels the defensive player is not looking at him, not playing him seriously, he could drive all the way. But that's not there. Suk, being the good defensive player that he is, obviously is going to play both man and ball. Now, again, set it here. If we get this good drive to the basket and Mark goes hard to the hole, Murray rolls down the lane and is there not only for a chance to pitch, but in good rebounding spot. So let's work that through. This time we're going to let Mark make that good curl dribble right to the basket. And Murray's going to work for spacing. There, drive to the hole, he goes down the lane. Now we have choices. We're coming off as a shooter, or we can pitch the ball. The key here, though, Mark has got to come off of this screen as a shooter. The first look is to score. Now, let's run that again. This time again, going hard to the hole. He gets the chance to go hard to the hole. Murray rolls with him. Good. All right, this time the defense forces the dribbler high. This time maybe they switch out. And now Murray will roll directly to the basket. There. He's forced out high. We get that to go there. Very nice. Exactly what happened. So again, let's look at it. The different reads. Get it set here again. If the dribbler goes hard to the basket and has a chance to score like this, Murray takes his body down the side. He's available for a short jumper, also in good position to rebound, or at least go to the glass to rebound. All right, let's take it again. Second time, they don't allow the dribbler to go into the lane, and he's forced high. Now the other person goes directly to the basket, and we get an opportunity. That screen and roll is one of the most popular plays in the NBA. You see it all the time. It creates a lot of problems. Last point we'll make is the dribbler must use a minimum of 2 dribbles. With any screen situation, you break down spacing. Offensive players get too close together. So immediately as it's set, we want to see Mark come off of that with a minimum of 2 dribbles to get away from his teammate. All right, let's look at it live. Start the ball up here. And we'll go. Defense can do anything.
Hold there.
That's it, that's it. Ah, you see there. As a coach, we right away remind Mark that he's not going to use 1 dribble. He's going to come off of that with a minimum of 2, hopefully more than 2, and really come off that thing looking to score first. Here we go. Run it again. And we coming off hard. That's it. And we got a mismatch inside. Good, strong, very well played. Exactly. Now, those are good examples of how you have to deal as an offensive team. Not just run the screen and hope something happens, but there's a whole series of reads that are involved. Not only executing a proper screen, getting your body set, working with your partner, but after the defense tries to defeat the screen on the ball, what do you do with the different reads that are involved? A very exciting play, a very popular play, and one you see in the game a lot today. On Tips on Technique this week, courtside of the Duckworth Center, we're going to continue our look at the screen on the ball, this week talking about how to defend the screen on the ball. In our first session last show, we looked at the actual offensive procedures of the screen on the ball. let's review that. Again, working with on offense, Luke Buller and Suk Singh in red, and on defense, Murray Davidson and Sherwin Vassallo in black. Let's go through, first of all, just a screen on the ball, let it play, and we'll have a look at the actual procedures. There we go. And we're coming off and we get a good opportunity. A very popular play, and one that has become extremely popular with the three-point line. Again, screens on the ball for good offensive players, and you have a lot of trouble with any kind of a switch because it involves bigger players screening for smaller players. And now we're going to look at how to defend that technique. And again, you just can't come out and switch it. It's really not a good situation. Let's look at the first technique, your basic one called a hedge and fight over. All right, first of all, let's get our offense set, lock that leg in, and here we are. Now, notice the person defending the screener, Murray Davidson here in black, does almost exactly what the screener does. The screener locks in the leg of the defensive player, and he locks in the leg of the screener. He gets his arm out in the lane and tries to create a position, a place for his teammate to come over the top. And Sherwin will step over that screen and stay with his man. Let's have another look at that. Walk it through. Hedge and fight over. Notice the talk. And we're staying with our people. Very nice. Run it again. Hedge and fight over. No switches. No possibilities of mismatches. Very well done. Player underneath, if your man is setting the screen, you are the one responsible to talk. Let's go again.
Sure, coming right, coming right, coming right.
Good, and we're over the top, and we stay with our people all the way, except we lose them halfway through, but that's okay. Good technique. Now, what if that doesn't work? Let's look at another technique. We'll bring in Mark Carrera in black to be another defensive player. The offensive player here, Suk Singh, is that good that he's coming off of that screen, and we know that he's going to shoot the ball. Especially with the three-point line, he may be shooting threes off of this screen. So we are going to trap and rotate. This is a technique you see many of the NBA teams use, especially, say, against the Chicago Bulls, where you have an unknown center setting screens for Michael Jordan. And we know that Michael's going to shoot the ball. All right, let's have a look at this technique. Trap and rotate. Right, very nicely done. Good. And Mark, the extra defender, rotates to the man who's open. That's Luke who set the screen. Let's go at it again. All right, notice we trap the offensive dribbler. Both the person setting the screen, defending the screener, and defending the cutter here, both of them are trapping up in that situation and forcing Suk to get rid of the ball. If he tries to throw to his teammate Luke, Mark, the Pistols defender, in a help position, will pick him up. Let's have another look at it. Good, very nicely done. We get back to our positions. Good. Let's run it one more again. Trap and rotate. All right, Mark, if you're going to him, you're telling us what you're going to do. Trap, 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 trap. Good. And we're back. Very nicely done. All right, good. There's two techniques. Now, again, if the person receiving the screen, this time Suk again, is a great penetrator, not a great shooter, but the danger is him taking it into the lane and passing the ball, we are going to use a technique called four-man deep. Let's set that up now. All right, here comes the same screen. Locked in. Now, notice the position that Murray takes here. He's not locking in the leg at the side. He's not trapping up here, but he is absolutely blocking any possibility of Luke rolling to the basket. He's right up here, and he wants to get as tight as he can so that Sherwin goes under the screen, and picks up Suk, who's that great driver. All right, notice why it's called four-man deep. Let's set it again. All right, come and get it. Here we go. And hold right there, right there. Here's the ball, one man, two man, three man. The defensive player goes four-man deep. And it's not a very long route because his buddy is right up against the screener when we pick him up. All right, let's have a look against that. Now, this is against a player who is very good at penetrating. Here we go. Get underneath, and we got it there. Good, well done. And that's a good technique, especially if you're not afraid of really Suk pulling up and shooting the ball. All right, let's go live a couple of times. Use any technique you can. All right, we got to talk. That's tough. You see, there's one of the things a good coach, which I did not do. You really have to decide on what you're going to do and not let players make the decision because it's confusing. That's not a criticism, it's a fact. And I should have actually said, all right, this time let's go trap and rotate. Here we go. That's good, that's good. You ready to be in there, Mark, to take that? Good job. All right, this time let's go four-man deep.
Right.
Get underneath. Good. Well played. Well played. Well played. Very nice. All right, this time let's go hedge and fight over.
Show it. Come right.
Very nicely done. Good job by all four. Excellent job. So there are three techniques. There are a number of other ones. You can actually switch it if you feel the mismatch is not that important. But there are three good techniques to deal with the screen on the ball. Next time you're watching a basketball game, see if you can pick out which technique the teams are using. This week on Tips on Technique here courtside at the Duckworth Center, we're going to look at a concept called overloading a skill. Basketball obviously is a game that's played with one basketball, but many times during your practices, especially at the end of a season as we're in right now, when maybe practicing is a little tough to do, players aren't motivated, they'd rather play than practice, you can look at overloading your skills. And one of the ways to overload a skill is adding in extra basketballs. Even though the game is played with one, there's many skills that you can work at with two basketballs and even three basketballs. Working with me today is Luke Buller, Suk Singh, and Mate Marathi. Now let's start with a little juggling and see how we're doing here. We have Suk and Luke working to juggle a basketball. They have three. Now you're never going to see anybody do this in a game, but this is definitely a good way to improve your ball handling. Let's go a couple more times here. Local famous juggler Robin Chestnut has just done a session with our team where we have worked on trying to juggle basketballs. Great. Now let's take passing and catching and go with two-ball passing. All right, again, we'll work with Luke and Suk. All right, two-ball passing. Very easy. They work back and forth, getting a whole lot more passes than they would ever get in a game. Now let's throw a third ball in there, Mate. All right, let's see what we can do with three-ball passing now. Got to have pretty quick hands. You got to keep your eye on the basketball. Very nice. Let's keep it going. Good. Let's go with four balls. Let's see what we can do with four balls. This is going to be tough now. This is something they just started working with. Look at that. Here we go. It keeps going. Keep going. Let's try it again. That's excellent. Here we go. Let's try four balls now. One more time. You got to throw it nice and high, so there's a bit of time there. Here we go. Got to concentrate. There it is. Excellent, excellent. Good job. All right, let's take dribbling now, and let's get all three of you with two basketballs. Again, you're only going to dribble one basketball in a game. Many of us have one strong hand. Our right hand is an example. The other hand doesn't get a lot of work. Let's work with two-ball dribbling, and they're going to follow with the instructions that I give with my hand. Here we go. Yes, same. Now notice they are dribbling the ball the same way with both hands. We can also go alternate. Now they have one hand is high, the other is low. Back to same. Back to alternate. And they just follow the hand directions that I give them each time. All right, now we can also go one high and one low, and that's tough. One dribble is high and the other stays low. This is very tough, but it's also a lot of fun. That's great. Now let's take shooting and go from there and work with two balls, a drill you've seen many times before on Tips on Technique. But again, we're going to get a lot of extra shots here for Luke. Suk is going to rebound, Mate is going to pass. Using two basketballs, we're going to get him a lot more reps than he would ever get. In a game, you might get about 10, maybe 15 shots, but in this drill, which we like to run for 45 seconds, a shooter's going to get 30, 40 shots. We like to do this 2 or 3 times during a practice. Again, we're using two basketballs. We're overloading the skill of shooting, giving the player a lot more repetitions than he would normally get in an individual game. You can see we have a rebounder inside that throws the ball up top to a passer, and the passer is going to hit that shooter with the ball. We go 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and we rotate a spot. Let's rotate one spot to see how the rotation goes. All right, the rebounder goes to the passer. The passer will shoot, and the shooter comes in to rebound. All right, very simple little game, and we keep the ball moving with two. You can get a lot of good shots. Good. Now, inside is one example. Let me take Luke down in here, and we'll just try to overload the skill now, not with the number of basketballs, but with the number of repetitions. A lot of players have trouble finishing inside because there's a lot of contact. All right, Luke's going to take the ball inside and take it up strong. This is a good drill, a good basic drill for all basketball players where they learn to keep the ball high, A good teaching point as we come to this side here, let's stop right there and catch the ball, hold on to it. We want to make sure that the player does not take the ball below his chin. And he's going to use the glass every time and bank the shot off of the glass. Now, let's go ahead. We can add something to overload it. Notice, as coach now, I give him a little bit of contact. This is a great frustration reliever for coaches late in the season. They like this, a little bit of contact, a little bit of hack, a little bit of push. And this is trying to simulate the odd time that you get contact in the game inside and got to finish those shots. And we get Luke to go, that's it, hard. And we get him to finish. We get a little contact. Maybe I increase the contact. Most of it is on his not shooting arm. There's some nice slaps there. That's nice. Good job. And we got one there. Finish. Good job. All right, there's some examples of overloading skills. What we've done is try to increase the number of repetitions, and we've increased the number of basketballs. These are good concepts to use in practice. They add a lot of variety to your practice. They increase the intensity, and they certainly increase the motivation. These drills and many other like it can be used especially to stimulate that late practice intensity. Today on Tips on Technique here courtside at the Duckworth Center, we're going to look at the use of the backboard. It's one of those interesting features in basketball that fans have come to expect. You go to a basketball game, you see the floor, you see the hoop, you see the backboard. And maybe you don't understand where the backboard came from. Most players today like to use it to bank shots off of, but the original backboard was put into the game in the 1890s because fans began to interfere with the basket. They were sitting in a track very much like you have here at the Duckworth Center. It was lower down. Remember, in the original game, the original hoop was put on the facade that ran around that gymnasium in Springfield, Massachusetts. Well, fans with their umbrellas, they were leaning over the track and they were knocking the basketball away from the hoop. And so in order to keep the fans away from the hoop, they put in this big sheet of wood in behind called a backboard. Today, it's a part of the game. It's used in shooting, and we never think about it in terms of keeping fans away from the basket, but that's what it was really intended for in the beginning. Let's look at a backboard today and look at the parts and see what it's very importantly used for. Now, this is a glass backboard. They come in four shapes. You have your fan board that come in both your wood or tin and glass, and you have the rectangular board, as you have here in the Duckworth Center, that comes sometimes as a sheet of plywood or tin, but in most cases like this in terms of glass. And in it is this white square here. That white square is extremely important in terms of the shooters using it as a target. If you want to shoot the ball off the board and bank shots, this becomes the target. It is a much easier way to shoot the ball from the side, especially using this bank angle here. The white line here, placed to bank it, would be at least halfway up the white line to the top, and that ball will bank very nicely off this spot into the basket. So the shooters that use this as their bank board will now aim in this spot here. Let's look at some of the different shooting techniques from this. Working with me today, Suk Singh and Luke Buller, and I'm going to stand in here as a defensive player, and I'm going to move and let them come in and shoot the bank shot over top of my hands. They can clear the rebound out. Now look for that spot for a couple, and then we're going to go and have a look at the different caroms on these shots. Good. Now you have an idea of the kind of shot that's necessary. Continue to do that, guys. This is a very good shot because in many times you have to pull up and shoot it. Let's go back here again. If you try to do the layup, right, there's going to be a charge here. In order to avoid the contact, or maybe to avoid the big shot blocker in the middle, you pull up and use the bank shot. Now, if we get a shot of the actual basket, let's watch and see how the ball caroms off it and see if they hit that spot. That one was a little too far. That one was a little too far again. Again, we're looking for the top half of that white line. Perfect spot. Notice when the ball goes in, you're going to see it hit that spot. Now, that was a little high, but it was soft and dropped. That's right on. There's the bank shot. That's the spot they're aiming for. So that white box up there is used in order to determine the target where that bank shot could come from. And it's a great shot because you're usually coming in very hard, and you pull up with a good front stop and shoot. And if you're a little strong, a lot of the energy is absorbed in the backboard. To shoot from this spot and try to hit the rim. Let's do that, man. Try to score without using the backboard, and we'll see what kind of success we get. There's one miss. There's another miss. So you see right away percentages have changed. Let's go back to using the backboard. Another miss without using the backboard. Now watch the difference. Here we go. That one's in. And we aim for that white spot. There's another one. We went 0 for 3, not using the backboard. Now we're using the backboard, and we go 3 for 3. So now as a shooter out there, you understand the reason for this board. The reason there is a backboard. It's maybe better called a bank board. And those shots from the side at about 7 to 10 feet, develop that as part of your repertoire where you can pull up and softly shoot the ball off of the glass. Your shooting percentages will increase dramatically. And use that white square as the point that you aim for. If you're playing in a gymnasium where there isn't a white square, for example, you may be playing on a plywood or a metal board, get someone to paint it on there in black, and that will improve your shooting percentages. The glass boards already come with them, but if you're playing in a gymnasium where there's not a glass board, get some tape, get some paint, and put that same box in behind. You'll be surprised how dramatic your shooting percentages will increase. This week on Tips on Technique here courtside of the Duckworth Center, we're going to look at how to defend the fast break, sometimes called transition defense. The fast break is a very popular offensive weapon used in basketball. We watch games all the time, especially now when you're getting into playoffs, and many of the teams that have the success in playoffs, the March Madness time of the year, are the ones that have the explosive fast breaks. Well, how do teams in basketball defend the fast break? Basketball is a very unique game. It's very similar, as we've talked about on previous shows, to soccer and hockey. But one of the big differences, the biggest difference, is that there is no goalie in basketball. So obviously when you lose possession of the basketball, the first thing you need to do is protect the basket area. In soccer and hockey, you have those areas already protected with your goalkeeper. So let's look at how you defend the fast break, protect that goal area in basketball, and we'll work with 5 people on offense who will lose the ball, give it up on a score, and now they have to return back to protect their basket and make sure that there's no easy baskets available for the offensive team. All right, let's first of all take 5 of them on offense, and we're working here to get a good shot. All right, let's run our half-court offense. Run a couple of different things here, looking for opportunities to score. That's fine, little back screen up top. There's a nice lob, and we score. Now, we see some attack from the offense, and I have assistant coach Grant Richter looking as the offensive team. There's a good example of how we'll set it up. All right, let's take that again and break it down. All right, quickly hustle to the other end. Let's get it set again. You'll see that offensive teams, most cases, want to push the ball at you with a dribble. So the first task we have is somebody going to the basket to become the goalkeeper. The second task is that we want to stop the basketball. All right, here we go. Again, in the half court. Good back screen right there. Up top, and we score. Now, Sherwin Vasala, number 15, right back to the hole. Suk Singh, number 20 in black, he defends the basketball. All right, let's look at it again. Bring the 2 big guys out here, Sherwin, you get into the half court. All right, right there's good. So the first task now is your point guard on offense retreats to become the goalkeeper. So you'll see, first of all, the point on offense running right back, and we use the word hole. So Sherwin goes back, yells hole, he's our goalkeeper. All right, secondly, his partner in the 2-guard spot, Suk Singh here, as soon as he hears the word hole, he now can attack the dribbler, the offensive player, and make it very hard for him to advance. The number 3 guard, Mark Carrera here, will pick up any long pass, any lead pass that may come from the offensive ball handler ahead. And numbers 4 and 5, Tom Wedlake and Chris Hansen, they're hustling back to help protect the basket. All right, let's have another look at it. Run it from the half court again. All right. Again, simple little offensive play. We have no goalie. All right, here we go. Good offense. We work it through. Very nice. Little back screen sends the big man to the hoop. This time we go short. We have the score. All right, here we go again. And we pick it up. Very good, very good. So we've covered all of the different possibilities. Let's stop it right there. Everybody take their position again. All right. Mark has any headman pass that comes up the lane that can hurt you. All right. Suk has the ball and wants to turn it 3 times on this side of center. Make it very difficult to advance the ball. Sherwin is the goalkeeper and holds that position until your big people can get back and protect the basket. Now from here, once the fast break is stopped, we will build whatever defense is required, be it man-to-man or zone. All right, let's run it one more time and build into a 2-3 zone once we stop the ball. All right, here we go. Now let's look for all of those different responsibilities being taken care of. Good. Half-court offense again. This, I guess, is the best way to lose possession of a basketball on the score, but you can lose it in many different ways. All right, good pass inside. There's the score. All right. And we get it, and we build that zone. That's good. And we're set. Fine. Right there. Perfect. And not a great shot, but it goes in. That guy's tough. All right. That's super. Now, there's a good example of how you defend the fast break. Teams will run the ball at you very hard, but you need to have a team, all 5 people, protecting the basket, making sure that it's very difficult for the ball handler to get the ball up the floor, protecting the ball side headman pass, and getting your big people back, and then making that transition quickly into your half-court defense, be it zone or man-to-man. So look for that next time you see a great fast-breaking team. Look for what the other team tries to do to defend the fast break. Today on Tips on Technique here courtside of the Duckworth Center, we're going to look at one of the most popular offensive weapons that's found in the half-court game today. It's simply called the small big screen. Many of the team defenses today have gone to switching defenses. That means that any screen that is set, either whether it's on the ball or away from the ball, they are switching the screen. They are giving up the options of staying with their original matchups and risking any type of a mismatch that may occur. This is very common in the game where you have shot clocks, because most teams cannot exploit the mismatch if there's a shot clock, because there may only be, say, 10 or 12 seconds, and by the time they get organized to find the mismatch, the shot clock may be out. The small big screen has come into the game and really takes ultimate advantage of this mismatch. Let's look at where this can occur, and in another episode later on Westman Basketball, we'll look at how to defend this very, very difficult offensive maneuver. All right, let's set it up first of all in the half court here. We have the black team on offense, and we're going to set up an entry to the wing here. Sherwin Vassallo here is going to enter the ball to the wing. We're going to set up a little rub at the top here, a very common offensive technique, a bit of a back screen here, just to help him get open. And we're going to send him into the lane, and he is going to set a screen on the postman in black, Chris Hansen, and we'll see what happens from there. Let's walk it through a couple of times. Here we go. Enter wing, use that rub, and now we're going across and setting it up there. All right, perfect. Now let's have a look at that and walk it through again. All right, obviously the small big screen is easily seen here, and if this is a team that wants to switch this, they're going to have a lot of trouble, because the mismatch is evident. The mismatch is immediate because it's here at 3 feet from the basket. Let's have a look again. We enter the ball to the wing. We use a bit of a rub at the top, and now let's stop right there. All right, let's go back, Chris, over here before we enter the ball. Here's the good screen. All right, this is the key here, that the small point guard here sets the good screen. He's in a straddle stance, locks in the leg of the defender. He's got good balance. He's prepared to take the contact, and now we go here. If they switch, we're switching point guard to post. And the matter of maybe a half a step in here will determine whether we get that ball in a good scoring opportunity. All right, let's go and let's switch this time. All right, let's go through the same thing and switch it inside. The red team is a team that switches everything. Here we go. We use the rub at the top, and we set that screen, and we switch up. Look at the mismatch we have. Very good. Turn, and we get a great scoring opportunity. All right, now let's set it again. What if we both come? Now, Tom Wedlake here in red and Souk, let's both take the post, and Sherwin, as you come in, you flare to the corner to get yourself a shot, and see if we can skip that ball across. Here we go. Good small big, and he steps across. They're both there, and we may have an opportunity to score from that spot there. Excellent. Let's go again. All right, this time let's see what we can do. What else could this team do? The switch doesn't work. The double doesn't work. There's a lot of problems. Run it through again. Let's see, either do one or the other. Either switch it or try to stay with your own man. Here we go. And we have the mismatch immediately inside, and we go over top. Very good. Now the only thing is we got to finish some of those shots. So there's a good example of how you can use, run it through behind me here, guys, how you can take advantage of teams that switch all of those screens. This is the ultimate in problems for the team, because now you are switching with the biggest player on the floor, Chris Hansen. He is switching checks with the smallest player on the floor, Sherwin Vassallo. And we get that good opportunity in here. Great opportunity. There's a classic one where we take the ball up over top of the point guard, and we get a good opportunity to score. All right, so there's a good example of how you exploit teams that switch their screens a lot. This is a good offensive technique, very popular today. You'll see it used in a lot of college games. It's very difficult to defend. On one of our future episodes, we'll look at how to defend the small, big screen. But right now, you have a good feel of how you can really exploit the opportunities that are presented by teams that continually switch their screens.